Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on the topic of women in entrepreneurship. My name is David Stankiewicz. I'm staff at IEEE, and I'm so very grateful that everybody's here joining us for Meera Kaul of the Meera Kaul Foundation's presentation. She's going to deliver the session for you today momentarily. I just wanted to start off by introducing myself and also thanking the IEEE Women in Engineering International Leadership Conference for giving myself and Meera the opportunity to be a part of the virtual portion of this fantastic event. Before we get started, I'll go over just a few housekeeping items and let you know how you can participate in today's session. So if you have joined today's webinar listening through your computer's speaker system, also known as VoIP or voice over IP, this means that you will be able to hear Meera's entire presentation without dialing in using your telephone. We'd like to make this session today as interactive as possible. So at the end of Meera's talk, we're going to leave about 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. If you'd like to ask a question of Meera, you can do it two ways. You can use the chat feature in WebEx. Simply type your question in the chat or Q&A portion of the webinar to myself, David Stankiewicz, listed as the host of the event, and click send. We're also going to field questions through Twitter. So join the conversation there by tweeting your question with the hashtag WeLead. So you can use hashtag WIELEAD. I also want to let everyone know that we are going to record today's session. So if you missed any portion of the presentation or you simply just want to revisit it a second time, you can find this webinar available on demand in the coming days on the IEEE Women in Engineering YouTube channel. So let's go ahead and get started. Meera, you can go ahead and join the line, and I will let you take it away. Meera Kaul, everybody.
Thanks again. I think you can hear me now. Good morning, everybody. I am here to deliver a session to you today, which is about women in entrepreneurship. What we will do in this session is basically take you through the entire process of building a startup. I'll start with very rudimentary but very important processes that you need to keep in mind when you're thinking of getting into entrepreneurship. And once we're done with the basics, we will talk about the other stuff that is so important to women from a woman's perspective. Well, it seems that the decision to become women entrepreneurs seems to be influenced, and in my experience, by several factors. The primary is your background. It includes aspects of having, that have impact on motivations, your perceptions, the knowledge and skills that you bring to the table. Then the other important factor is jobs, which influence the location, the nature, and the path of what you want to get into. Then factors like availability of risk capital, the economic conditions, availability of mentors and advisors, it seems, is very important for women entrepreneurs, and availability of personnel, support services, and of course the very important factor of access to customers. So based on all of this and a lot of research that we've done at the foundation and others have done, we feel that there are four types of women entrepreneurs. Now, you are free to figure out which one you are, but there is a highly conservative woman entrepreneur who really values the traditional gender roles, and you have a fragmented job history, and you're forced into self-employment by economic needs rather than any other need. And your income normally complements the family income. Then there are the pioneering ones, very strong entrepreneurial ideas, highly educated, and committed to the enterprises that they link themselves to, and they're motivated by achievement of their goals. So the goals are everything for them. Then there are the native women entrepreneurs who become entrepreneurs because they want autonomy and for personal reasons rather than for economic reasons. Then there are the radical ones, these women have very little attachment to gender roles. They become entrepreneurs to improve their place in the society and are the rebels. They're not motivated by money, but by gaining autonomy and freedom from the influence of men. Entrepreneurship is very close to my heart. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years of my life. And today, when we start with talking about fundamentals that could get you kick-started into that space, and if you are already in the space, that could in some way help you, I hope. Entrepreneurship, for me, is a discipline. You do need a basic DNA to be entrepreneurial, and we will lead you through the process in the next hour of the session. So feel free to reach out to us at WIELEAD. The hashtag is WIELEAD, and the Twitter handle for the foundation is Meera Kaul Founder, and my Twitter handle is Meera Kaul, with any questions and comments you have during this session. So let's talk about entrepreneurship. Why is entrepreneurship such a hot topic these days? And women in entrepreneurship becomes even more important. It's a nexus of enterprising individuals and promising opportunities. The principle of entrepreneurship is to develop enterprise, but it also creates a prosperity for all participants. It needs to create prosperity. It means for the participants in the entrepreneurial process, these are the investors, your customers, the people who supply products to you, your employees, and of course you. You are the center as an entrepreneur. You're the center of this entire process of culmination of intellectual capital and entrepreneurial process. For example, if you look at how entrepreneurs are so diligent about what they do, take the example of Fred Smith. He worked for a long time. What he thought was going to be a huge problem for the world, which was shipping products to customers. He worked over years. He worked over 2 decades to look at the problem. He wrote a concept paper and gave it to a Yale professor who actually gave him a C for the effort. And then he went back to book. He actually redrafted his entire plan. He went and worked in the aviation industry, and he redeveloped a business plan that got him financial backing. And today, that company is called FedEx. So entrepreneurship is not only about who you are. It's about how you're fixing the problems that you see around you. You have to disrupt the status quo. You have to be an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, we strive to make a difference in our world. We identify opportunities, we mobilize resources, and we relentlessly execute on a vision. Entrepreneurs are people who identify and pursue solutions amongst problems. We pursue possibilities amongst needs and opportunities amongst challenges. Entrepreneurship is not easy. Normally, as statistics say, only 1/3 of the average new venture survive in the first 3 years of its existence. We must be able to accept failure as a potential outcome of our venture. Entrepreneurship is more than creation of business and wealth. We create new enterprise that serves society, makes a positive change. We can create great, reputable firms. And what we need is performance, leadership, and of course, longevity. So what is the difference between a company and a startup? A company is a business organization. It has a set business policy. It knows what it's doing. It has a product or service that can sell, and it sells for revenue, and it's able to make profit. Whereas a startup, when you're an entrepreneurial startup, you are a temporary organization. You have created a business model that could easily be pivoted, so you're always searching, and you have to make yourself repeatable in that search and scalable at the same time to actually figure out what the right business model would be at the end of your startup process before you become a company. So, what does it take to be a startup? The founding team or individual should have the skill or has to acquire a skill. And the skill has to be defined by not only putting the entire team together and match their skills to what the need of the opportunity is, but also to create a solution to match the opportunity. The financial and physical resources are extremely important, so locating investors, partners, creating alliances is a very important part of your entrepreneurial process. Of course, the contracting with investors, finding the entire team together, putting it all together to really lead to success. All of these things are very important when you start an entrepreneurial venture. What are the skills that you require? And this is a question I get asked a lot. How can I be an entrepreneur? What do I need to know to be an entrepreneur? Well, if you were able to initiate and operate a purposeful enterprise, if you can operate within the context of the environment at the time of initiation. And that is very important because you could be actually operating out of context and you could never see the light of the day. You should have the ability to identify and screen opportunities. I get a lot of entrepreneurs coming to me and say, I have 5 ideas in my head. Now, which one of these ideas is viable? And that's a process we'll actually talk a lot more about, because that planning process, that viability process is the most important aspect of a building block of a startup. Can you accumulate and manage knowledge and technology together? Can you mobilize resources? Your ability to mobilize financial, physical, and human resources is extremely important. Can you assess and mitigate risks? Do you know, or are you just scared of risk? Are you so risk averse that you can't take a small risk even? Novel and original contribution. What do you bring to the table? What is it that makes you unique? Are you able to enable and encourage a collaborative team of people with capabilities? And can you reach the success goal? So if you are a potential entrepreneur and any of these questions that I'm going to ask you are positive, you're in the game. Can you be comfortable stretching the role and questioning conventional wisdom? Can you just think out of the box and say, you know what, this problem has been sorted in a certain way in the last 500 years, let me do it another way. That is very important. Are you prepared to take on powerful competitors? You might think of an idea that is very close to what somebody else has done for the longest time, and they have market share. Do you have the guts to go on and create enemies out of them? Do you have the perseverance to start small and grow slowly? Because it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of pivoting. It does take a lot of time as well. Are you willing and able to shift strategies quickly? Are you pivoted so well that you can actually look at the marketplace, look at the economies, look at the way the world is going and say, hey, you know what? We're wrong. Let's pivot it back and let's look at something else. Are you a good deal closer and a decision maker? Because that is what you will need to be. You'll need to think quickly. You will need to decide quickly. You need to be a very, very, very powerful decision maker. And if any of these questions that I pose to you are positive, we can actually definitely go and talk about the next step, which is opportunity evaluation. And this, I believe in any startup, and in my own startups as well, I think I've spent a lot more time talking about opportunity evaluation, actually spending time and evaluating the right opportunity and the right method to solve that problem and creating an entrepreneurial venture around it than raising money or doing the rest of the stuff. So opportunity evaluation is the most important task. Take it from me. Good opportunities normally address important market needs. So you got to start by examining social, technological, and economic trends that lead to identification of emerging needs or needs that are gaps right now. Entrepreneurs seek to build new ventures and to act on good opportunity when it matches their capabilities and interests, and should exist in a very favorable context, and should exhibit the potential for sustainable long-term growth, and should facilitate the acquisition of required resources. The good opportunities offer reasonable chance of success and require the entrepreneur to make difficult decisions of to act on it or to not act on it. The choice of an opportunity and the decision to act is the most critical juncture of your life as an entrepreneur. Opportunities can develop from market demand or from new technological possibilities. These opportunities are demand pull and the technology push, respectively. With demand pull opportunities, entrepreneurs begin to assess a need or problem that cries out for a solution. For example, the need for a pharmaceutical that can mitigate or cure the effects of AIDS is a demand pull opportunity. But successful new ventures are initiated by people who experience painful problems, and those are technology push opportunities. For example, in the case of D.Light, Sam Goldman, who's the founder of D.Light, lived all over the world and then became a Peace Corps volunteer in Benin. And while he was in Benin, he saw that his neighbor's son was badly burned by a kerosene lamp. This inspired him to create a new source of light which could match kerosene lamps in price, but be safe for use around small children. And now D.Light creates extremely efficient LED lights that are 8 to 10 times brighter than a kerosene lamp and 50% more efficient than fluorescent lights. Once an entrepreneur has identified a problem, he works to develop a solution. So another example is Scott Cook. He founded Intuit, He saw a problem that a lot of us face as individuals in keeping home budget records. And then end of the year doing our taxes. Tax season just got done, so you faced it too. And then, of course, pay bills. So Cook thought this problem could be solved through a financial software that was so intuitive that most people could use it without resorting to a manual. And thus, he named the company Intuit. Now, technology push opportunities might be set to begin with a solution, such as what Scott Cook developed. But the discovery of a new technology such as, for example, HDTV in consumer electronics or stem cells in biotechnology leads entrepreneurs to search for new ways to apply it. For example, Sandra Lerner and Leonard Bosak formed Cisco Systems in 1984 to explore the capabilities of a router to transmit and translate data to and from disparate computers. Now, when you're talking about opportunities and you're thinking, hey, I've got an idea and I need to ideate, I have done this for you. I've created these 9 categories that are major categories in which you might find opportunities. The first category and the most important one is to increase the value of an existing product or service. This increased value can include improved performance, better quality or experience, and improved accessibility or other values unique to the product. For example, I know in Tibet there's a company called Showcase. It's a for-profit social enterprise and distributes 100% yak-down products, including scarves and throws. The products are sourced from impoverished Tibetan yak herders with a broader mission to fostering economic development to remote areas of Western China. The products are luxurious, soft, and functional and have great wide appeal. The second category is new applications of existing means of technology. An example for this could be credit cards with magnetic strips. Now, they've been available since the 1960s, but a very thoughtful innovator recognized the application of this technology to hotel door cards and created a wholly new application and industry that keeps innovating its stuff. The third category concentrates on creating mass markets for existing products. A very good example is a company we all know, VMware. Initially, VMware focused on a product that enabled software testers to check the quality of code using virtual environments. And VMware enabled a single machine to operate like multiple machines. But smartly, they recognized that with modest enhancements, the company could expand its product offering to run critical systems called operation workloads. The market for these operational application environments is at least an order of magnitude rather than quality assurance and test. So they were able to expand its product to a $10 billion market rather than a $700 million market that they were originally targeting. Customization of products for individuals is another opportunity category. It affords a new opportunity for an existing product or technology. Examples could be, for example, Spotify. Spotify lets users play from their own libraries as well as from Spotify's collection of millions of tracks. But you can actually individualize it for yourself. You can access your music via a desktop app, a tablet, a smartphone, or wherever else Spotify can be used to access. And Spotify also integrates with social networks, including Facebook. Now, this is extreme individualization. There are more examples of this in the market. But the other category that I would want to talk about is expanding geographic reach or online reach. Now, it allows a new venture to increase its number of customers. A good example is Optos, for example. Optos is a company that was founded in Scotland. It had a novel eye exam technology and a very innovative pay-per-use business model. It was backed by angel investors for many years. And then using that money, it carefully expanded its operations into the United States and Germany. And now it's a viable public company listed on a London stock exchange. Another category which is a powerful force of improvement is supply chain management. And Walmart has done this over years, and it's thrown open amazing opportunities for entrepreneurs to subsist. Walmart integrated inventory information systems in each store with its broader distribution system to reap economic benefits from improved inventory management. Another category would be convergence of industries. New opportunities, creating novel combinations of markets and technologies. A good example of this is genetic engineering. Genetic engineering is actually a convergence of electron microscopy, micromanipulation, and supercomputing. Totally different opportunity category. Business and manufacturing process innovations, which is another category of another good source of opportunity. For example, FedEx and other airborne shipping systems change the way in which individuals and organizations ship goods to each other. And even now, there are new opportunities that exist. For example, a new company called Ship with an app, which also innovates on top of this process innovation. And another very important opportunity category is increasing the scale or consolidation of a certain industry. For example, historically, railroad industry provides a very powerful example. Consolidation of railroads began by the turn of the 20th century in America. There's 5 major railroad companies, down from thousands of companies in the 1800s. More recent consolidation examples include the automobile manufacturing industry. Even Tesla throwing open its patent is great consolidation effort for the EV industry. Cable and satellite TV broadcasters, telecom carriers. Through mergers and acquisitions, an industry can be consolidated with greater savings. So what is an opportunity? What is an attractive opportunity? Why would you want to go with one opportunity versus the other? And this is a very important decision because this is make or break for your entrepreneurial venture. If you do not spend time really evaluating your opportunities properly, you might end up with a wrong startup. Your opportunity needs to be timely. It needs to be solving a current problem. The problem needs to be solvable given the resources that you have in hand. Of course, there are opportunities where people are sending spaceships to get minerals from Mars back to Earth, but those are opportunities that might not reap results pretty soon. So I think as entrepreneurs, especially as women entrepreneurs, and with the risk associated with investing our time effort in something that would reap results, 10 years from now, we should look at solvable opportunities. We should look at resources available to us around us and then try to solve those opportunities and try to create an attractive value proposition out of it. The customer should want the solution, or the need should be very important to a customer. It needs to be profitable, so that somebody has to pay for it, and that somebody is normally the customer. And of course, it should conform to regulatory or industry situations. Investment of time, money, and effort into venture should be less than what the venture would be worth in 2 years, and that's the math. That's the back of the envelope math that you would do when you are evaluating opportunities. And you should also think about a probability of a large return in maybe 4 years. A solid analysis of current and expected industry conditions also leads to a viable opportunity, but you should always keep yourself abreast with changes in the industry that you want to exercise the opportunity in. It's very important for you to read. It's very important for you to understand the economic and the political conditions. If opportunity turns out unfavorably, you should be able to exit with minor losses, and always keep that in mind that you might need to exit. Failure is inevitable, and failure is good because then you've learned. But to be ready for failure is the mark of you handling a good opportunity better. Do you think there will be any potential gains significantly? So you have to look at competitors to see what their exits are and how they exited and how valuable their businesses became. The most important aspect for any opportunity is how good the entrepreneur is. And I know when I invest with entrepreneurs, 90% of my decision to go with a startup is the capability of the entrepreneur to execute the strategy. And of course, whether there's a customer that exists would buy the products or the services being sold. In your entire lifetime, you don't need 100 good opportunities. You just need 1 or 2 very good opportunities. You should invest less time, money, and effort in the venture, and you should make sure that should be a probability of a large return in 4 years. Do not count on making a high price sale for your firm to the public or another company. Do not count on that as a opportunity evaluation. In this process, it's a business planning process that would come later when you start evaluating yourself and evaluating how well you're doing. Carry out a solid analysis of current and expected conditions of the industry. If the opportunity that you have selected turns out unfavorably, you should have a process by which you will exit. You should have you should know how much loss would that mean for your investor and for yourself. Is it a fad that you're investing in? Is the opportunity a long-term success opportunity? And you should decide in an evaluation of your opportunity, you should go where the potential future gains are more significant. Will the customer that you're selling to enable your firm to profit from this venture, or is a customer a buyer? These things are very important for you to really figure how importantly this process should, this is a process that pivots the ideation. So it's very important for you to spend most of your time in really figuring out which one of your opportunities is the one that you're going to pursue. Now, having done that, having spent time identifying the opportunity and how to evaluate the opportunity, the most important aspect of whatever opportunity that you decide to go with is what is the value proposition? And value proposition is the value that you deliver to the customer. And the customer is the guy who will pay a reasonable price in return for the product or service or the opportunity that you've put in front of him. Value is the worth, the importance, or usefulness to the customer of your idea. In business terms, value is the worth in monetary terms of the social and economic benefits a customer receives from paying for a product or service. To be successful, entrepreneurs must offer products that meet the needs and values of the customer. So you've got to understand your customer that well. The needs of the customer often include ease of locating or accessing the product, as well as its qualities and features. The slide lists the 5 values, along with specific descriptors for each value. Price, for example, can have a high value to the customer when it is fair, visible, and consistent. A product might have value if it has high performance or quality, and it's easy to find and use. Most technology-based products are initially focused on performance and functionality. The value proposition defines the company to the customer. Most value propositions can be described using these 5 key values. It's often seen that one value is selected to dominate the value proposition offered to the customer, and the second value becomes is a differentiating value of your customer. And the remaining 3 values out of these 5 must always meet the industry norm. For example, consider Walmart, where price is the dominant value of its offering. Walmart differentiates itself on product in terms of selection and quality. By contrast, the values offered for Target are dominated by product and differentiated by price. Many firms focus on good service, which is about human interaction. For example, Honda has a great service as its dominant value, and its secondary or differentiating value is product. In this slide, I've listed some companies that you are very well aware of, and if you see Amazon, its primary value is access, its secondary value is product. For Harley-Davidson, primary value is experience, and the secondary value that it offers is product. For example, Nordstrom, the primary value that Nordstrom wants to provide to its customer is the service, but the secondary value is the experience, so on and so forth. So whenever you have initiated a process into entrepreneurship, to define your value proposition for the business is a very important aspect of how valuable you will make your venture to the customer who will pay for the business. Now that we've spoken about value proposition and evaluated the opportunity better, we need to talk a little bit more about business model. The design of a business is what delivers value to your customers, and you earn a profit using that activity. The business design incorporates a selection of customers, what you're going to offer to the customer, the tasks that you will do, and how will you do the tasks? Will you outsource them? Will you do it yourself? And how are you going to definitely capture profits in this entire process of doing your business? A successful business design represents an improvement over existing alternatives. So it's always good to have 3 or 4 business designs and then choose which one is really attractive to customers or investors or even team members. So it's like a story. A good business design will address what the venture will or will not do, and how the venture will create the sound value proposition that we already spoke about. And business design primarily answers three questions. It is, who is your customer? How are the needs of the customer going to get satisfied? And how are the profits going to get captured? And how are you going to, and more importantly, most importantly, how are you going to protect profitability? The resulting outcome of the business design process is the business model, which is an integrated description of your venture's unique customer value proposition and of how the venture will configure its resources and activities to deliver that value and to earn sustainable profits. To create a theory of a new business, the entrepreneur must clearly describe the customers and their needs and how your venture is going to satisfy those needs. A business model is the description of a relationship between the venture's customers, value proposition, differentiation, scope, org design, and profit model. Now, I'm using Steve Blank's business canvas to really determine the variables of business modeling. So let's talk about these 9 important variables of business modeling. Value proposition, we spoke about it. It's never about your idea or product. It's about satisfying your customer. It's solving a customer's need or problem. For that to happen, you must know who your customer is. For you to know your customer, you have to understand that you exist for your customer. The customer does not exist for you. So you need to know every possible detail about your customer, who they are, where they are, and why they would buy from you in the first place. How are you going to get to your customer? Once you create a product or a service, are you going to distribute it? Is it online, offline, physical, virtual? Are you going to use web or mobile to get to them? These are questions that you need to answer. Customer relationships, very importantly. Once you know who your customers are, you segment those customers. You should have a solid strategy on how you're going to get the customers, keep the customers, and grow them. What are your revenue streams? How are you going to make money from each customer segment? Even if you have one customer segment, how are you going to make money off them? That means you need to have a deeper understanding of what the value is for that customer segment. What is the value that you're providing? And that would really determine your pricing and your revenue model. Resources. What are the most important assets for your business? For some businesses, human capital is most important. For other businesses, technology is more important. For other businesses, finance is the most important aspect to keep anything else moving. So you got to define what are the most important assets to make your venture work, list them, and then you got to figure out how these resources work together in delivering what is required by the customer. Who are your key partners to make your business work? So you have internal resources. Are you going to outsource this? What are the activities that your internal resources are going to do? What are the activities that you're going to outsource? What are the activities you will do? What are the alliances that you need to have in place to do what you got to do better? And how are you going to make all of these variables work together? And then what are the activities that are important for you to really deliver what you got to deliver? So is production important? Is ideation important? How are you going to pivot the ideation process? How are you going to what extent will you go before you go back to the customer and say, hey, I've made this, what do you think about it? Is design more important? So you got to list the activities that you need to have a bucket list of activities that you need to do to make sure that all the activities that lead to a product being created or a service being delivered are done. And then the costs. When you are clear about who your customer is, how the customer relationships are going to work, what are the activities to be done, who are your allies in this process, what resources do you need, you will have a greater idea about the costs to operate your business, which means you will know what are my fixed costs, what am I going to spend every month, what are my variables, how do I maintain my variables. Because of the other things that you do, what are the economies of scale that your partners or allies or business partners bring to the table? What economies of scale would a customer bring to the process? Which are the most costly activities for you? And what are the most expensive resources? Once you've answered all these questions, you will have on paper a business model that you could actually take to a production stage. Let me just explain the business model of two airlines, and I've just put it on a table. So, for example, we're discussing American and Southwest here. For American, the customer is a guy who needs to fly many places the world over. But for Southwest, it's a traveler who desires to fly routes, point-to-point routes, and they do that routes very repeatedly. The dominant value proposition of American is product, while the dominant value proposition for Southwest is price. The differentiator for American is accessibility, and for Southwest, it's service. The differentiation that American brings is wide scope of products. It goes anywhere. But Southwest, they have limited point-to-point flights, easy maintenance, and training at a very low cost. The scope for American is very broad. They connect everywhere. For Southwest, very narrow. They only fly point-to-point. The org design is hub and spoke. That means they have a very high fixed cost. The hub design for Southwest is low cost, point-to-point. They're controlling their costs by only flying to a few cities and only doing repeated sectors. The value capture for profit for American is a dominant hub city, and that requires high occupancy. That means the hub and spokes require high occupancy since they fly everywhere. But Southwest, they need high occupancy from point to point, so they will only pick up cities where people travel a lot to point to point. The value for talent for American, they pay their pilots very well, so they have good career options, but Southwest might not pay that well. So they depend a lot on how people team up with each other. They give stock options to the teams, and that leads to totally two different business models for two competitive airlines that are doing practically the same thing, but differentiate themselves on what parts of that opportunity they're addressing. Now that we've spoken about business models, let's talk a little bit about competitive advantage. You have to do a competitive analysis whenever you look at an opportunity. It explains to you how you will do better than your rivals. And in doing better, by definition, you mean you created a differentiation already. A lot of companies achieve superior performance when they are unique, when they do something that no other business has done in ways no other business can duplicate. An entrepreneurial venture is likely to be a new entrant in the industry. Therefore, you should describe the barriers to entry. You should also consider the threats of substitutes and the bargaining power of people who supply you stuff or customers or complementors. One of the main factors that drives traditional analysis of the determinants of market structure involves comparing the size that a firm must be to compete efficiently to the overall size of the market, and that's why when you do your presentation, you look at the market opportunity and you look at what part of the market opportunity would you be playing in. If an industry has few firms, a new firm might be able to readily enter and gain market share. A new technology venture is likely to perform better on paper if it operates in an industry with high barriers to entry, low rivalry, low threats of substitute, low buying power, low supplier power, low bargaining power of complementors. That is a very ideal situation. Doesn't happen realistically. So what does the technology venture have to do? We have to work to design and produce at low cost the highest quality product that possesses a unique differentiating factor. 4 common ways that any startup distinguishes itself from its competitors would be create a niche, have a niche to go with, have a cost differentiation, have differentiation in terms of a secondary differentiation, a service, or whatever else. And then, together with cost and the secondary differentiation that you've created, create a value proposition for your customers. For example, these are competitive advantages that these companies, these are startups that became huge companies, went to market with. HP went with high quality, Dell with customer service and a lot of individualization of their services, Google with product design and functionality, Facebook market segment is actually the value proposition. Amazon, a huge product breadth line, Medtronic, product innovation, Genentech with IP, Oracle with the product selection process, with Pfizer, they went with better sales methods. A competitive advantage is a significant difference in a product or service that meets the customer's key buying criteria. Remember, it is always about the customer. If it doesn't meet the customer's key buying criteria, it's not an advantage. It could be based on lower costs or differentiation. Many firms also try to improve the efficiency of their operation to lower costs, and that's what a company like Amazon has done over years. Every time that they innovate, they look at better ways to make their operations more efficient and low cost. They also strive to innovate to provide superior quality to outdo their competitors. So to have a competitive advantage is an ongoing process, and it needs to start at ideation. All firms seek to erode competitors' advantage by acting to imitate their product or service attributes or innovation. But a sustainable competitive advantage is a competitive advantage that can be maintained over a period of time. Hopefully, you can measure this in years. Now that we've covered opportunity and the evaluation of a good opportunity, the value proposition, business model, and the competitive advantage, let's talk about startup strategy. Many startups, especially in the Silicon Valley, are built on differentiation. They've offered customers something that the customers value that the competition doesn't have. While the basic product might be a commodity, the differentiation is somewhat obtained in various interactions or services for the customer. Some firms selling personal computers attempt to differentiate themselves by offering high-quality service. Some companies, like, for example, Harley-Davidson, differentiates itself from other motorcycle manufacturers by lending money to people to buy its motorcycles. Paychex is another great Silicon Valley example. It's an example of a company with a differentiation cost strategy. It provided payroll processing services and began by targeting small and medium-sized businesses that needed this service. Paychex offered good customer service and payroll at a very reasonable price, and then it got accepted by customers pretty quickly. Because of satisfied customers, they were able to grow the business to over $2 billion and more than 500,000 customers. And they've been able to grow that ever since. There are greater examples of startup strategies. Apple's startup strategies, yet another example. It started by emulating Sony and Microsoft and Napster. But then it started with iPod in 2001, added iTunes, and later then took iTunes into iPods, and then after selling songs, moved to apps. Now, startup strategy has to be an ongoing process because innovation doesn't stop. And if innovation stops, then your value proposition to the customer stops, because there'll be somebody else doing what you're trying to do, definitely around in your domain. Another example of startup strategy was, it doesn't have to be something unique that you've thought about. It could be something that's already being done, and that's Sam Walton when he opened Walmart. He started this strategy based on low-cost retail discount stores. He differentiated himself by locating these stores in rural areas, and these were large enough to probably just support one discount store. But this was his differentiator, and he created an organizational culture inspiring his employees. Even when competition emerged, he was very cost efficient because his distribution networks were based on a lot of investments he made over a period of time on information technology. So simple rules of strategy and operation became Walmart, and similarly with Harvard's Schultz as well, when he started Il Giornale. And Il Giornale is Starbucks today. We've done all of this, and we've spoken about how to build enterprise. We've spoken big things. We've spoken about examples of people who made it big. But as women, we know this is where we stop. Risk and uncertainty is perhaps the most important factor, which determines whether we're going to stay in business or not stay in business, or what do we feel about getting into entrepreneurship. And I know risk is a very, very important aspect of our our foray into tasting entrepreneurship. But yes, risk is chance or possibility of loss. And let's not get scared by the word loss so much. Loss is anything. Loss could be financial, physical, reputational. But remember, even Christopher Columbus, when he embarked on his first voyage to the New World, he risked financial, reputational, and even bodily harm. Low-end farmers they are vulnerable to unpredictable outcomes during drought, flood, other weather conditions. But there's always a way to hedge against the risk. People are risk averse or risk avoiders, women more so. Logically, an entrepreneur seeks to avoid or reduce risk for an action. Farmers purchase insurance to mitigate risk. But the best method to really look at risk is to really look at what are the uncertainties in your business model. There will always be uncertainties. You cannot work without uncertainties. And I believe the best thing to do at that point in time is to use a form of experimentation, trial and error. You identify new venture, take a few steps towards that business, and then evaluate with an early feedback process. If it looks good, keep going. Entrepreneurs normally take the risk of failure if the losses are constrained on the downside and potential rewards are high on the upside. That is a given. But to fail is good. And think about it this way: if you won't take a chance, you won't fail and you won't learn. Successful entrepreneurs also do this other thing that I'm going to tell you about. It's that they also rank their risks. So they put the deal killers first, and then they put the strategic risks the second, and then there are the operational risks. And then they also recognize dependencies in their business plan, where a failure or a delay in one area of the plan will impact the other area of the plan. Once you have identified all your risks, please rank them, and then you can work towards managing and reducing or mitigating the most critical ones first. So please do rank your risks and put the critical risks in one basket. And then, of course, before you've invested or vested yourself too much on the venture, keep going back to the risk and see how well you're keeping your mitigation strategy going. To perform the kinds of analysis appropriate to higher levels of uncertainty, what you need to do is enhance your strategic capability. Scenario planning is one thing I've realized. Scenario planning is always good. You always look at a situation, say, these are the 5 scenarios that I could fall under, and these are the 5 scenarios where there are higher conditions of uncertainty. Risk reflects the degree of uncertainty and potential loss, but risk considers of 2 elements: the significance of the potential loss and the uncertainty of that loss. And once you've measured these 2 properly, you kind of already mitigated your risk of failure or risk of loss. Let's talk about a little bit more about, since we already approached the business plan in risk mitigation, let's talk a little bit more about business planning and why it is very important, and why you should spend more time planning than just hitting the road running with an idea. A good business plan always starts with good understanding of the market. Now, the better you understand the market, the better you can create a defensible product plan, the better you have an IP strategy, and better you have a go-to-market approach for your marketing and sales. It also helps immensely if you have a background in previously building products or services for whatever you're trying to do. For example, a great example is Ken Shee of Fortinet. He had founded NetScreen earlier, a company that was a recognized leader in remote secure access products. He sold the company to Juniper for $3.5 billion, but he had all the experience in the world. Because he had a good understanding of the security market and he was aware of the problems that the customers were having, he knew that the customers were using a number of application software products to stop security threats. So managing multiple products was hard, and even with those multiple products, hackers were still penetrating corporate security. She felt that he could build a single hardware network security appliance product that had superior capabilities in catching threats from hackers, and then corporations would will likely buy such a solution. So he assembled a top-notch team, built Fortinet, publicly listed it on NASDAQ, and now is a recognized leader in unified threat management. So the business plan can be used to align interests of not only what you know best, but you need to find the right people around you. You need to find the right team. With experience in doing what you're doing, you're able to identify the right team and then identify the right stakeholders as well. For example, when you go and pick investors, you always pick up investors that are most interested and understand what you're doing the most, and just not approach anybody. So everybody around you needs to be a stakeholder in what you're building and needs to buy into your idea. Building a business is a process, and that process is rightly laid out in a business plan. We've spoken about opportunity, vision, a value proposition, and business model. It's very, very important to put that down on paper. Have the concept, feasibility, have your story right, have the scenarios right. You have to plan financially. You should know your legal situations pretty well. And then you can plan your business better. What is also important is a resource acquisition plan. How are you going to get the resources? For example, you're building something that you don't have resources for. Your strategy to acquire those resources will become very pertinent to the success of your business. So you need to think about whatever you don't have in your ecosystem and how you're going to fill those gaps. And that leads to a very thought-out execution and launch process, which as an entrepreneur is probably the most important aspect of business planning. And you will make mistakes. So I've listed all the mistakes that you will make, and you should think about before you really start diving into a venture. Sometimes you don't know what a problem is, but you know you have the technology. You build technology, and then you start looking at where can I fix the technology? And so you have solutions and technologies looking for problems instead of problems looking for solutions. Your business model, an unclear business model, is a very, very, very mean business planning mistake. Incomplete competitive analysis and an incomplete marketing plan is a complete no-no. You have to know your position in a competitive landscape really well. Describe your risks and opportunities. Do not shy away from uncertainties. As I said, list your uncertainties, know which is critical, know what is not critical. And if you don't have the right people, don't go into the venture. The gaps in capabilities required for the team are very essential. If you list the right capabilities, you will find the right people. Or you won't. If you don't, then you're not in a venture. Inadequate description of revenue and profit drivers is another such factor. Limited or no description of matrix of the business. What makes a business successful? What doesn't make it successful? Lack of focus and a sound mission. Too many top-down assumptions. You really haven't drilled down to how these assumptions can be put into a plan, how they will be a part of your product. And if these assumptions are not true, how is that going to impact your venture? And then, of course, limited confirmation of customer demand or pain. Without this, you cannot move in the next phase. And the next phase for your venture would be product design. Successful product design and development requires commitment, vision, improvisation, information exchange, and of course, collaboration. The first step is to establish the goals and attributes of the product, expressed as the required performance and robustness of the product. When possible, the potential customer should be included in the design process, and I would definitely suggest that even before you start the ideation process, go to a few customers, get a few customers on board on your advisory team, and start building start ideating with them as to what would they buy and what would they pay for. Customers normally do suggest ideas for new products, and they can be involved through the entire product development process, and that would give a lot more surety and mitigate a lot of risks for your venture. Use prototypes to redefine your business model and strategies. But prototypes don't have to be working models. You could pick pictures or sketches, mock-ups, diagrams, and collaboratively use them. They could also be physical, digital, pictorial, or just combine a lot of media. Microsoft does that a lot. Microsoft made a beta version of Windows available as a free download. Every time they have a new product, they make it available as a beta version, as a free download. And then they use customer feedback to refine the product for its official release. And new technologies such as computer simulation can make creation of prototype really fast and cheap. Rapid prototyping is great. You could use that for collaborative review and modification. Initial prototype should be rough. and it should enable the team to view the product and improve it. It's often best to carry multiple product concepts together so that you can select the best of the designs later in the process. Keeping multiple product concept options open and freezing the concept late in the development process also gives you the flexibility to respond to market and technology shifts while you're still ideating. It's also possible to create static and dynamic virtual prototypes that are displayed at a website for review or testing by suppliers, by customers, by designers, by customers, by people who are going to use the product. Virtual prototypes also cost very less and than the physical counterparts. For innovation, a prototype is a mechanism to teach the market about the technology and learn from the market about what would make the technology viable. So do not make sure that this prototyping process is a very important process for you, because this will mitigate most of the risks that you have to start your venture and go ahead with it. I wish I had more time to talk more about other processes here, but this wraps up the entrepreneurial acumen discussion, and this is time for us to move on and talk about other stuff. Sources of capital. Now that you have an idea, you can prototype. Where do you go for capital? You have angels. Angels are great to work with. They might know or might not know more about your industry, but they will dilute very less. They will move very fast. There'll be hardly any negotiation, and the due diligence requirements are not that great unless you go to angel bands. For example, there are a lot of group of angels that have come together and collaboratively put together a lot of money in the market here in Silicon Valley, and those angel forums will ask for more due diligence than individual angels will. However, you cannot work with angels on a long-term basis. You have to look at VCs at some point in time in your product process, and you only go to VCs when you need large sums. You need help with enhancing your product, being more marketable, and create more reputation and credibility. At that point in time, the VCs will take a larger ownership. They will become a huge part of your decision-making process, and they will also become very active with your business. Between angels and VCs, there is another layer. They're called the micro VCs, and they're pretty prevalent in Silicon Valley. And they are in between. Their role is in between that of the angels and the VCs. They're pretty good with how they would invest in you. And they also serve as conduit to the bigger VCs. And so do angels to a great degree. A lot of deal flow from the angels passes on to the VCs. So that's a great way to go. Corporations are another good form of investment. I have a lot of startups that create a product and they are selling more into a bigger corporation, and they become the startup arm of the corporation, and the corporation invests into them. The only thing over there, the only downside to that kind of an investment is that then you really can't sell to the competition of that corporation. And then your IP is at risk because you kind of diluted yourself already by being a part of a bigger corporation. And let's talk about the last thing. And the last thing is, what does it take to lead to success? And over a period of time of being an entrepreneur, being an investor over 3 continents, this is what I would say. I'd say leadership is very important. If you are a CEO of a startup, if you're starting your own entrepreneurial venture, be a leader, be ambitious, be strong. Choose the right people around you. You cannot do it all alone. You cannot. It's highly impossible for you to be a know-all person. So choose the people that you surround yourself with very carefully. Create a roadmap. Create a plan with them. Communicate with them. Success is in your head. It starts with you. You have to show faith in your startup, and you know that it should prevail in the long run if you have enough faith. And people see it. When you believe in yourself, people see it. Act on your passion. Know your competencies, and create an engine around your competencies, and create that as a culture of your organization. Use technology. Even if you're building technology for other people, use technology internally to communicate within the company, which accelerates the momentum of the company. And create something, create ownership for a lot of people within your corporation. Surround yourself with entrepreneurs. What is very important as women that really I see is a big factor to work on are 3 things that I would like to talk about. First is attitude. It doesn't make a difference in a person's success whether you are an optimist or a pessimist. Optimists might look at the bright side of things and serve as an inspiration, but as a pessimist, you can be more realistic and make less risky decisions. Either way, it is not about how you see a situation. It's about how you respond to a situation. And your response to a situation will either hinder or facilitate you in business. So refusing to give up on something should not be confused with just being stubborn. Holding on to ideas and practices that are not working is being stubborn and sometimes foolish, but considering alternative approaches to overcome challenges is an example of sticking to it and not being pig-headed. The key difference between being stubborn and being tenacious is that stubbornness stands in denial of a problem, refusing to accept a need for change. A can-do attitude works, though you just have to create solutions for yourself. So attitude is very important. Do not give up. Networking, especially for women, very important. Few things will help you establish yourself and grow your business faster than creating a strong network. No one person knows it all, so do not isolate yourself and your thoughts, because when you do that, you're isolating your business as well. Having access to a variety of resources can increase your efficiency, can increase your knowledge, give your business the publicity that it wants, and increase your chances of succeeding. Another great way to build networks is to just participate in forums, email discussion lists, chat rooms. Relate yourself to your business and the type of customer you want to attract. Use personal and other social opportunities to network yourself for business. You don't have to be aggressive or pushy, but always have a business card handy when an opportunity to promote your business presents itself. Do that. Then, the most important thing, have a thick skin. As women, we are very sensitive. If you take everything personally, you will have a much harder time accepting ideas and change, and you will never get the most out of your business or get the most out of your employees. To be successful, you need to be willing to listen to new ideas and actively solicit the opinions of others. Treasure new ideas and opposing opinions. Do not rebuke them. The ability to accept constructive criticism will help your business stay on the cutting edge and avoid potential problems that you might not be able to see on their own. So value opinions and advice of other people. In an entrepreneurship workshop for women last week, one of the participants was really worried because she was because she thought she would be called names as she's aggressive and she shows objectivity and shows a thick skin. She said that I don't want to be called pushy or arrogant. But as women, we need to understand that though stereotyping is as good as being biased, we cannot let a stereotype define us. Do not let the people who stereotype you hold you back. Everything is about attitude. Breaking stereotypes starts with you. Being called pushy, bossy, arrogant is not negative. In fact, as long as you show the results and get the job done, why should you care what other people think and how they stereotype you? You have to overcome your mental barriers yourself. Focus on the job at hand, and that is that you have to build your own business. And with that, I open the floor for questions. Back to you, David.
Meera, thank you so much. That was an excellent presentation. We are really short on time. We did get a bunch of questions that came through the chat, so I'll address as many as I can in the next couple minutes. I'll just go right down the line here, Meera. The first one asks, what are the things I should keep in mind as a woman entrepreneur? A little general, a little vague, but can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. As a woman entrepreneur, I don't think you need to keep anything else in mind that I spoke about it pretty much so today. I think you have to be very careful in ideation. Women are emotional. They like an idea. They think it looks good, and they will go with it without really evaluating whether somebody was just going to buy the idea. So ideation is a very, very, very important aspect of entrepreneurship. Just make sure that the opportunity that you're going to spend your time on is something that will have buyers for it. The other thing that we have to keep in mind as women entrepreneurs is focus. When entrepreneurs are, we have to create a strategy where we become role models for other women. That is a very important part of this process. We become role models for other women when we show success. How do we show success? Is by remaining focused on what we do. There will be difficult times. We will have to take risks. We will have to persevere. But As long as we subjectively are focused on the end result, which is to create a good business, I don't think there's any failure in that.
Thanks, Meera. Another great question that came through is, what are some of the performance indicators for a startup?
For a startup, during the course, whether you're seeding a startup or you're at a later stage, there are a few things that I see are very important. The first is the cost of acquiring a customer. The second is customer retention. Most startups fail because instead of focusing on existing customers, they look to acquire new customers, and the cost of acquiring new customers is really high. Attrition, the movement of customers, customer churn. What is the lifetime value of a customer? Product metabolism is another factor. That means you've gotten into product development and you really don't know what you're going to do with the product a year down the line. So defining where you're going to go with the product, and you could always pivot, you could always go in another direction, but as long as you have a chart in mind on how you're going to evolve your product, that's very important. Viral cost coefficient, that means how many customers that hit you really lead to conversion. Revenue is very important. Referral rate, how are the new customers finding you? That's also very important because it reduces the customer acquisition cost highly. So these are some of the factors that I look at in a startup when I look at how well the startup is doing.
Meera, I have another very interesting question here. This one actually comes from the investor side. Is angel investing for me? How do I know if I have the income and or the assets to be an angel investor? And this is kind of a two-parter. The second portion is, are most angel investors male or female? Can you speak a little bit about the other side of things?
Oh, absolutely. Angel investing is for anybody who has enough money to put away for a while. A normal investment cycle in a startup is 4 to 7 years. As an angel investor, you might start seeing another round coming up in a few years. So if you have money that you could just keep on the side and not worry about it for some time, you should be an angel investor. Now, it's a high-risk thing, and you should be also cognizant of the fact that you might just lose the money. So, angel investing again is something that is a very personal decision. But at the same time, I think you should become an angel investor if you know enough about that company, if you think that you could contribute at some point in time with some advice, be a good mentor, be a role model for the investor. There's something that you need of value that you can provide to the venture. So apart from the money part of it, the other part where you have the know-how that the entrepreneurs that you're investing into are embarking upon, I think that's a very good way to start to accelerate yourself into angel investing. You don't need a lot of money to angel invest. I know angel investors that put in as little as $10,000 and see a company grow and see returns. And there are angels that put in $100,000 and see a company grow and return. So there's a wide variety of options available. It's always a good idea to really invest with other people. So if you can get a group of people together and invest together, that might mitigate your risk because then you have a lot more people to give you advice on angel investing. Then are there women angel investors? Of course. Lots of women angel investors, lots of them. Women who have worked in industries over a period of time and then on the side started investing in startups. Many examples here in the Silicon Valley, even more so.
Okay, Meera, we're ending the session here. We've gone over a little bit, but I have one more interesting question, and then I will let you take us out. This woman asks, I am a young woman entering college soon, and I'd like to consider applying as a business major. Do you have any recommendations for any universities or colleges that are tops for female entrepreneurs?
I think Babson University is one university that actually has a course for entrepreneurs, and I do get a lot of mentorship requests from there. They have courses tailor-made for entrepreneurship. The other very good place to be at is Stanford, of course. Stanford, because it's the culture. It's the innovation culture at Stanford that completely surpasses the culture that I find in other universities. So yes, do look out for Stanford, look out for Babson. These are universities with tailor-made courses that would be great experiences.
Perfect. Thank you, Meera. So with that, I'm going to conclude today's webinar. I want to thank Meera Kaul from the Meera Kaul Foundation for joining us and taking the time to present to us on women in entrepreneurship. And I just want to let everybody out there know if you want more information on Meera's session today or other sessions that are part of this virtual Women in Engineering International Leadership Conference, just visit the IEEE Women in Engineering ILC website. That's IEEE-WIE-ILC.org. Again, thanks to the Women in Engineering Committee at IEEE. Thank you, Meera, for giving us some great knowledge today on the entrepreneurship field for women. And I'll let everybody, on that note, have a great day. Thanks, Meera.
Thank you.